Hey everyone, this is your girl Sharifa, aka Shree, and welcome to the I'm Good podcast, or in better words, the I Feel Good podcast. If you are new here, welcome to the family. This is a podcast where I explore topics on mental health, physical health, nutrition, and everything in between. So if you're trying to get right and stay right mentally, this is definitely the place you want to be. And wait, before I begin, here's some quick info. Why did I name this podcast I'm Good? Simple. Because as people, from a cultural standpoint, whether we are down or happy, our favorite response to friends, families, or strangers is I'm good, even if we're not. It's completely normal not to feel happy all the time, but in the midst of whatever you go through, the saying I'm good can elaborate to so many different meanings. So yes, this is the place to be, whether you are down, happy, excited, and everything in between. I'm here to dish out knowledge, talk about current topics, and of course, lift you up. So feel free to go ahead and subscribe, share this podcast, leave a review, and tell a friend. Now let's go ahead and get started on today's show. Hey guys, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. And let me explain to you really quick. First of all, for starters, it's free. Yes, I said it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And I know most of you guys have a phone or computer, so it's so easy. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So make sure you download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey y'all, welcome back to the I'm Good podcast. If you are new here, what's good? Oh, what's poppin'? And shout out to my I'm Good fam, my I'm Good listeners. Thank you to everyone who has been rocking with this show, who has been rocking with me. And thank you so much for just showing love. Like I said last week, last week was my first recording that I've done in like months. And it felt different. It definitely felt different getting back into recording shows and getting back into the podcast groove. But listen, I am here and I'm ready to get it started back up again. And there's a lot of different things that I definitely want to implement. There's things that I want to do. And I know I keep saying this to you guys, but y'all, like, I'm trying to tell y'all, like, the struggle be real sometimes. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's like the struggle really be real in regards to having like your own battle in your own mind. Like I literally sometimes be like just battling my own mind. Like in my mind it'd be like, okay, I want to do this, but then it's like the other side of my mind is like, girl, no. And so that's why I have this podcast, because I just want to be, transparent and do things that talk about things that I can, help other people with, whether that's anxiety, battling your mind, just trying to get your mental straight. I really want to help people to understand what things they can do to become a better person, what foods can they eat to feel better, to look better, and just overall just live a more joyful life. So I just want to say, as always, I love to express gratitude. I want to thank everyone who has tuned into the I'm Good podcast. Thank you to everyone who has checked out whatever episode you checked out, however you started, however you found out about this podcast. I just want to say thank you so much. Also too, this podcast is sponsored by www.allthingsstreet.com, a place where I offer motivational apparel to make you feel and look good. Okay. So make sure you guys go ahead and head over to www.allthingsstreet, and that's S as in Sam, H as in Henry, R as in Robert, I as in Indigo.com, and go ahead and pick up your clothing, your merch. So make sure you guys go ahead and head over to www.allthingsstreet to go ahead and grab your new crew neck, your new hoodie. Thank you to everyone who has shopped with me. And also too, I do have a special discount code for all of my I'm Good fam listeners. Use 10% off Use code I'm Good fam to get 10% off of your entire order. Also too, if you have not done so, if you have listened to this podcast this free podcast. And if you have not done so, please make sure you guys go ahead and leave a rating and review. It takes 2 seconds. If you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts, which is by far probably the largest podcast platform out there, please make sure you guys go ahead and leave a rating. It will also be lovely if you can leave a review. Go ahead and leave a review. Listen, I appreciate the feedback. Just listen, y'all. Just if y'all could, just go ahead and do that. It helps this podcast to get even more shine and light, than it already is right now. And I'm always just so thankful. Like I said, it's just so amazing when I started this podcast about 2 years ago, just realizing like how it really took off in regards to just so many different people from all over the world tapped into the podcast, and I appreciate it. And I always knew that whatever I do, it would touch and impact a lot of people. But it's crazy when you see like in real time, it's like, oh shoot, like, oh my God, I'm really like, people from all over the world is really listening. So shout out to all the people, my international people from all over. Shout out to you guys. But yes, if you can, whatever podcast platform that you are using, if you are using Apple Podcasts, if you're using Google, Spotify, whatever it is, make sure you guys go ahead and leave a rating review. That will be greatly appreciated. That will help me to continue to get these podcasts out to you guys. And listen, it just helps me too, because you know what? Sometimes I do need that boost of motivation and I just need that boost. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that. And then also too, be sure to share this podcast. Like, share it with someone. Share it with someone you feel like it will help. Share it to someone, or share it like on your social media. You can share on your Instagram. Just share it somewhere. Share it on your Twitter. Just share it, because you never know who you could be helping. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that and share the podcast. And, as always, it's greatly appreciated. So thank you. And also thank you to everyone who has shared it already, who have reached out, who have sent me messages, who have just approached me. I just really, 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 really just want to say thank you to you guys. So today I want to get back into talking about foods and basically like understanding what foods impact our overall mood. So today's topic is 10 foods that can cause an anxiety. So I know a lot of times I talk about, foods that we can eat to boost our mood. But I now kind of want to flip it a little bit. I want to talk about foods that you may be eating, or that I may be eating, we all may be eating, that can be causing anxiety. Because sometimes, we can talk about the different foods to implement in our diet, but also too, we sometimes need to know, like, okay, what foods can I avoid? Like, okay, I'm dealing with depression, I'm dealing with anxiety. Like, what foods can I do or take out of my diet to figure out what's going on? So today's podcast topic, I want to talk about 10 foods that can cause anxiety. So the first food is, the first type of foods that can cause anxiety are foods high in sodium. So one thing about me is that because I am a type 1 diabetic, I've been a diabetic since I was 9 years old. I've always looked at packages, not so much sodium content, but I've always looked at the nutrition facts. So my biggest thing was looking at the carbohydrates and servings, understanding the carbohydrate count, how much is 15 grams, is it a cup, whatever. That's like my main thing as a diabetic. So just recently, I would say like within the past 5 or 6 years, I've really been more into like the sodium count and understanding exactly, about how much sodium I'm putting in my body. So I did used to use MyFitnessPal a lot. I used it a lot, but I kind of pulled back from it, but I do need to get back into it. But it basically will tell you how much sodium that you would have each day, as long as you enter the correct meals, whatever, or enter exactly what you ate that day. But foods that are high in sodium can be linked to anxiety. So think about frozen foods, think about canned foods. There are a lot of foods that are packed with sodium. And, yes, our body, there's a certain amount of sodium that we need, but a lot of the foods that we're eating, we don't need all that sodium. So a lot of times we're feeling bloated. We might be feeling angry, might be feeling exhausted. A lot of times that's coming from the sodium content in the food that you're eating. So next time that you eat something, if it has nutrition labels or nutrition facts, look at the sodium count. And anything that has over a 4% daily value generally means that that food is high in whatever that is. So if something says like 11% or 12%, then that means that that food that you're eating has a high amount of sodium in it. So anything I would say 4% or less, that means that that food has like I would say moderate to low amount of, food or sodium in it, if we're talking about sodium. So foods high in sodium can certainly cause anxiety. The second one on my list is anxiety. The second one on my list is caffeine. So caffeine can certainly cause anxiety. Some people that drink caffeine, such as like coffee or anything like that, they may notice that they're more jittery or they feel more anxious. And caffeine has been shown to cause anxiety. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, like, and it's kind of hard, especially if you have like a busy life and you have a lot going on. A lot of times, coffee or just caffeinated drinks is the way to go to kind of, give yourself that quick start. But if you feel like you've been dealing with a lot of anxiety and just feeling all over the place, try to wean yourself off of the caffeine, to some extent. Because I know for some people, if you wean yourself off of it completely, it could just cause everything to kind of go haywire. But try to slowly remove that from your diet and see if that changes like how you're feeling. If you're, less stressed, have less anxiety, you feel less nervous, just see if that helps a little bit. The third food on my list that can cause anxiety is fried foods. Once again, fried foods, they can make you feel bloated. I know for me, if I eat fried foods, a lot of times I get the itis. And for the people that don't know, itis is like when you feel like sluggish and just, you feel like you don't want to do nothing. Like you don't feel energized. So for me, when I'm eating something healthy, whether it's a salad, and I'm not just going to say salad, but just something more healthy, something more nutritious, in that like a more balanced meal, I feel more energized. I don't feel sluggish. I don't feel like, oh my gosh, like I can't eat anything else. Because honestly, if you're feeling like that, that's already a problem. We should never eat to the point where we're like sick to our stomachs. I put an S at the end. But we should never, eat to a point where we're sick to our stomach. Like we should be able to know like, okay, I need to stop. And so basically with fried foods, they're already unhealthy. And a lot of times when we eat fried foods, we tend to consume a lot of it, whether it's fried chicken. That's the only one that comes to my mind. But there are a lot of fried foods. And oftentimes when we eat a fried food, whatever the food may be, we don't eat just one of that. We eat multiple. So try, staying away or limiting the amount of fried foods that you have and see if that can, help reduce your anxiety. Another type of food that can cause anxiety are frozen meals. As I mentioned before, frozen meals are typically very high in sodium. I used to, like when I used to work in the office, I used to really, really be like big into like frozen meals, especially too at one point I used to always have them in my apartment. And it got to a point where, like, I'm like, this is not healthy. And I feel like for me, you could kind of tell that it's not healthy. Like, as I was heating up the food, a lot of times it would taste salty, but I would just keep eating it because it was quick and easy. And everybody knows, like, especially in America, everything is about being on the go and it being about convenience. And that's something that I'm really trying to learn now is just learning to, like, just like prep your food, prep for the day before. Just like don't always be so much in a rush. And listen, y'all, that is something I'm trying to work on because I kind of operate in a way of rushing. I feel that if I'm not rushing, I'm not doing anything. And also too, I also sometimes feel like if I'm not doing nothing, then that means I'm not doing nothing, and it means that I should be doing something. But yeah, so frozen meals, I know a lot of people in corporate or wherever you work, that's kind of like the go-to, throw it in the, microwave and eat it. But a lot of those foods, frozen meals, if you're already stressed on a job or if you're already dealing with anxiety, it just really makes it worse. So try to limit the amount of frozen meals that you eat. Number 5, the next thing on my list is alcohol. Alcohol can certainly cause anxiety. with alcohol, once again, is one of those things where some people actually drink alcohol to help reduce the feelings of anxiety. But in turn, alcohol does so much to the body. It does a lot of harm to the body, and I feel like a lot of people, we don't talk about it as much, because I mean, the liquor market is just huge, but alcohol can certainly, can cause anxiety. Because there are some people that drink that become more anxious. Everything becomes more heightened. And then also too, some people who are anxious may drink alcohol to kind of suppress those feelings of anxiety and depression. So, but if you feel like, well, I'm just going to drink alcohol because I want to get rid of this anxiety, you may actually be doing more harm than good. So trying to limit the amount of alcohol that you're drinking, or just not having any, is a great way to help reduce anxiety. Number 6 on my list is sugar. Y'all, we talk about this all the time. Sugar is linked to so many types of diseases, so many autoimmune diseases. It's linked to inflammation. It's linked to cancer, linked to diabetes in regards to especially type 2 diabetes. Me as a type 1 diabetic, mine was more hereditary in regards to me developing type 1 diabetes at the age of 9. But yes, y'all, sugar. I mean, honestly, sugar gives you that high, but then it brings you down. And then a lot of times, if we're eating sugar or something sweet, a lot of times it could just be out of emotions. It could be because you're having a bad day, or you might be having a good day. I feel like, growing up in society is always like, well, if you're having a good day, go grab a piece of cake. You're having a great day, go get something sweet, get something. And that's just how we basically celebrate, especially in America. It's like, if there's a celebration, then that calls for ice cream, it calls for cake, it calls for candy. And it's like, just growing up on just everything being about sugar, especially in society, it's just like, it's sometimes it is hard to, stay away from it. But sugar can certainly cause anxiety. It can cause inflammation. If you can, try to reduce the amount of sugar that you consume. For myself, there's been a couple times where I'll go like 30 days without having any sugar, and I did pretty good. Well, I would say 30 days without having any sweets, I should say, because, there's sugar in fruit and things like that. But I'm talking about the more processed sugar, the more unhealthy ways to get your sugar, like through a donut, through a pastry, just ways where you don't need any extra sugar. Because if you're eating a good amount of fruits, that right there should fill you up and kick your sugar craving. So yeah, sugar is another one on my list. Another one on my list is high fructose corn syrup. This can be found in cereals. This can be found in drinks. I will say now they are doing a lot better in regards to eliminating high fructose corn syrup, because I know me growing up, listen, I'm a 90s kid. So growing up, everything was like high fructose corn syrup. And over the years, they learned that high fructose corn syrup does more harm than good, especially in young kids. Because I feel like all of my breakfast, like I would have like, they would feed us cereal at breakfast time at school. I feel like maybe like even the donuts, they used to give us donuts. It was, y'all, so, now I think about so many unhealthy foods. I used to eat a donut for lunch. Well, not for lunch. Well, for lunch. We used to have breakfast for lunch at school. But, I mean, now that I think about it, so unhealthy. And then we will have a snack line. And they probably still do have that in high schools and things like that. But in elementary school as well. But we had a snack line. I remember there were days where I didn't eat lunch. Instead, my mom, so I used to have to pay for my school lunch, whatever, when I was in elementary school and high school. But in elementary school, she would give me, I think it was like back then, it was like 50 cents or maybe $1. It was something like that, like maybe $1, to pay for your lunch. And so sometimes instead of getting a lunch, what I would do is I would spend my money on snacks. So sometimes I would just eat literally a slushie for lunch. So unhealthy. Or I would have ice cream for lunch, or just nachos. So unhealthy. And then also too, I feel like that's what all the cool kids did. I feel like all the cool kids literally just ate snacks for lunch. And not to say that I want to be a cool kid, but that was just kind of like the thing to, eat like the snacks versus the actual lunch food. So the next one on my list, number 8, I will say is similar to, like I said before, in regards to, your sweets, high fructose corn syrup, just fried foods, but processed foods. Processed foods is also linked to causing anxiety in a lot of individuals. So we already know, like, processed foods such as, going to fast food places, a lot of the foods that we actually eat are processed. We don't really talk about it as much. We talk about it, but I feel like not enough light is really shined on, just adhering to more of a plant-based diet. Like, you hear about it, but they also pull back from it. Like, like I said, like, you have to actually go to the information. And that's true to anything, especially for anything that's beneficial to the human body or just to our overall mind and body and spirit. I've noticed that you actually have to go find the information, because it's like they're not going to present it to you. You have to actually go and find it. So that's why I always say, too, I appreciate anybody that's listening to this podcast, because this is not an entertainment podcast. This is not a news podcast. This is a podcast to help you. And so the information that I'm providing, you're not going to find everywhere, unless you're obviously digging it up and you're in that certain realm, whatever you want to call it. But this is not the type of information that's like trendy. Like, it's not trendy to be like, hey, I'm going to talk about 10 foods that can cause anxiety. Like, that's not trendy. Yet so many people are dealing with anxiety and are just suffering from it because they don't know ways to get rid of it. So number 9, the next thing on my list, is food dyes. Food dyes have been shown to cause anxiety. So, the most common food dyes are, red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6. So just like start looking at the nutrition, facts label on the foods that you're eating, and just really start paying attention to what you're putting in your body. Generally, the less amount of ingredients, the better. Now, it really depends on what you're eating, but if it doesn't have a lot of ingredients, then that shows that it's more closer to being in its original form. When you start looking at packages and looking at food, and it has like all this different stuff, all these different ingredients, and that's when you know it's highly processed. And a lot of times they'll have food dye in it. And food dye can be found in candy. It can be found in pastries. It can be found in packaged snacks, so like your Little Debbie's. It can be found in so many foods. And a lot of people may not notice, but a lot of people may be allergic to it, to food dyes. A lot of people may not realize that. And y'all, there's just like I said, so much information out there that I can't wait to dive into even more. And just to present to y'all, because listen, we all got to help each other, because not only is this information beneficial to me, I know it's beneficial to you and someone else. So like I said, as always too, with this information, if you know someone who can benefit from this, or if you know someone who has been eating these types of foods and you feel like they could like really benefit from this information, please share this podcast. Or if you're taking notes, share this with someone, because you don't know what people go through. And I've said this all the time. Even me, I deal with anxiety. I've dealt with depression. I deal with a numerous amount of things, but looking at me, you wouldn't necessarily know, because I don't go out in public, saying like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. But it's something that I know I've dealt with and I still deal with. And like I said, I'm learning to understand, okay, what things can I reduce or eliminate, and what things can I implement to feel better. So the last one on my list in regards to foods, that can cause anxiety, or foods that you would like to avoid, is pop. Where I'm from, it's pop or soda. So soda and pop is not good for you anyway. That's something that I really been staying away from. So as a diabetic, I used to drink a lot of diet pop, diet soda, but now I'm just like, let's just stick to the water. I try so hard not to drink pop. If anything, I'll try to stick with I'll do like the caffeine free. So I don't like to do even caffeinated pop or anything like that, but I'm more so like juices and just overall water, like just doing water, because the pop thing, it's a no-go for me. So yes, those are 10 types of foods that can cause anxiety. Like, I know I didn't get into the specifics of foods, but those are types of foods that can cause anxiety. So like I said, if you feel like you've been eating one of these foods, or if you ate one of these foods or all of these foods, it doesn't matter, and you feel like you've been dealing with anxiety or just feeling like kind of blah, try eliminating one of these foods or all these foods for at least a day, or I would say a week, and just see how your body feels. So I would say prior to you eliminating that food, you could maybe write on a journal or a piece of paper, just say, today I feel blah, blah, blah. And then once you do like your 7-day cleanse, put how you feel then. And I'm going to be honest, you're going to be amazed. You're definitely going to be amazed at how you feel. And if you're trying to figure out what foods to implement, be sure to check out all of my previous episodes. There are tons and tons and tons of episodes of where I discuss different foods that you can eat that can help boost your mood and just help overall get rid of anxiety and depression. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. So now we are at the point of this week's quote of the week. And this week's quote of the week is 99% of things you worry about never happen. Let me say that again, especially for my anxiety driven people, my worry driven people, listen, and I'm talking about myself, but 99% of the things that you worry about never happen. So listen, y'all, let's just stop worrying and start living. Let's let go of fear. And if we have fear, let's conquer it. Listen, we are all in this together. You are not alone. A lot of times I feel like when you're dealing with stuff or just going through life, it does feel like you're alone, but we are really all connected more than you think. Like, we really are a lot more connected, definitely a lot more connected than we think. So, like I said, this podcast is here so that you don't feel alone. I wanted to create this podcast as a safe place for us to chit chat and talk. And as I continue to do this podcast, I do want to become even more. I feel like I've been transparent, but not as transparent. But I do want to open up more and just talk about, my journey, my life and things that I've done and just things that I'm doing now currently, to help better myself, help better my mind, my body and spirit, because it is important, because I love, listen to other people's journey and understanding, their story of what they went through. So that is definitely something that I will start, talking about more. Like I said, there are quite a few changes that I am looking to implement with this podcast. So please stay on the lookout for that. And as always, y'all, I'm just happy to be back. And yes, I'm just happy to be back, and I love every single one of you guys that listen. Like I said, I just, just got to express gratitude, because I always tell myself, no one has to do anything. You can make someone do anything, but when someone just wants to do something versus like feeling forced, it's just such a beautiful thing. So, listen, y'all, thank you guys so much. Thank you. So, all right, I'm good, fam. You already know what time it is. We are now at the end of this week's show, and I hope this information was helpful, insightful, and everything in between. Do not forget to go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, share this podcast, leave a review, and tell a friend. Thank you guys once again so much for listening and tuning in, and I will see all of you beautiful people next week. Bye-bye.